anybody needs me, I don't care. But if you really want me, you know I'm with my kind. If anybody needs me, I'm not here. If anybody wants me, I'm not there. But if you really need me, you know I'm with my kind. With my kind.
Welcome, everybody, to a cathartic edition of the Rockpile Report podcast. I am your host, Bill, season ticket holder Drew Gear. That's my producer, Chris Kruger. And don't we all feel just a little bit better? Don't we all just feel like a cloud has been lifted and you go, oh, this is what it used to feel like to be a Buffalo Bills fan less than 12 months ago. I used to think I rooted for a team that was great. Oh, there they are. there's that bully of a football team. Woo! I am pumped that we got that. Chris, I don't want to say that you got the monkey off your back, but geez, man, like this one was one you had to have. Orenthal James Cook in the comments. Guys, I don't know if you could tell from the YouTube thumbnail, but we've got a little... We've got
OJ references.
Got OJ references.
They're coming.
I literally told Chris, I go, I was going to bring a black nitrile glove and I forgot it from my barbecue setup. It's been, that was a game. That was a game, and that was something to see when you talk about, or you try to think about all of what we've watched for the last handful of weeks. The Buffalo Bills struggles, the ins and the outs, the ups and the downs for the Buffalo Bills. And now we all just get to step back and take a little bit of a breath. And you go, okay, see, they can still be a special team in the NFL.
Remember that time that I told everyone that the Bills would cover the spread and then some?
And I was like, I don't know.
Kyle H., who listens or watches the show, he sent us a DM of his same game parlay. He got everything right except Josh Allen over 200 yards passing.
Teddy Bandana. Cook was looking like Jim Brown out there. God, the OJ references are pouring in, and I couldn't be happier. Guys, it's been a historic week over here for the Buffalo Bills. It's also something of a historical week for the Rockpile Report, as we found out that, so any of you who listen to radio, before we really get into the Bills recap, I got to talk to you about this. Anybody who grew up listening to radio, even in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Did you call GR again?
You might know a guy by the name of Greg Hughes, or colloquially known as Opie. Opie Hughes was a mainstay of terrestrial radio for the better part of what, Chris, like 20 years?
Yeah, with Anthony Cumia.
And the Opie and Anthony show was part of the zeitgeist. It's one of those fancy terms people use when they're like, this thing was cool and it became part of the fabric of society. The Opie and Anthony show was ever present in the late 90s, 2000s, into the mid 2000s and thereon. And obviously that does what most chaotic shows that are based on profanity and just being as bombastic as possible. It cratered along the same lines most shows like that do, where it turns out the hosts are both just highly flawed individuals who can't work together, and the whole thing explodes and a lot of people get hurt in the process. What we learned this week, Chris, what did you tell me when I walked in here?
We have more listens than Opie Radio on YouTube.
For some reason.
The guy has 150,000 subscribers on YouTube and gets less than 100 views.
It's one of these moments where you almost feel vindicated. You go, you know what? I know I'm a hack. But you know what's really funny? There's this guy who was like a hero in radio forever. And he was like, I'll just go to YouTube and I'll just make a YouTube channel and everyone will follow it. My shows will be great. And he's terrible at it. And I go, you know what? we have bypassed Greg Opie Hughes. At least on YouTube. We, the Rockpile Report, have passed Greg Opie Hughes. And I feel like that's worth celebrating. Chris, what do I got here? You said this is a good one. It's a cask strength Old Soul straight bourbon.
It's a store pick from Sheridan Wine and Liquors. The first batch of Old Soul to be sold in New York State.
60 point. It's 121 proof. All right, let's get in. Let's climb in here because I feel like I need a little bit of this for this conversation. Guys, thank you to everybody who showed up. Thank you to everybody in the comments. Thank you for everyone who's showering us in OJ references already. I promise you it won't get better. We're here with your Week 8 recap. The Buffalo Bills 40 and the Panthers 9. I'm going to hit you with the stats of the game. Josh Allen, 12 of 19, 63.2%, 163 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, and 2 sacks, a 108 passer rating. It's Allen's third game of under 180 yards passing the season, which will come back up in conversation later. There will be a test on this at the end of the show. Andy Dalton, 16 of 24, 175, no touchdowns, 1 interception, 7 sacks, a 70 passer rating, and his 3 turnovers, each of which directly led to a Buffalo Bills score. Carolina running backs, 88 total yards, which is the fewest by that position group since week 2. Dalton Kincaid, 14 total snaps, 12 routes run, 3 targets, 1 drop, and 1 catch for 23 yards. Bills defensive ends, 14 individual pressures, 6 total hurries, 5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and 1 interception that should have been a touchdown. And then I've got some notable numbers for you, Chris. I'm going to run them by you lightning round style. You got to tell me what I'm thinking of. The number 3.
Number of knives OJ owned.
No, it's the number of years it's been since the Buffalo Bills scored multiple 50-yard touchdowns in the same game. Do you remember that game?
No.
You were there with me for it.
Which one was it? Was it Jacksonville where you weren't there for the Josh Allen touchdown pass or Robert Foster?
That was the Steelers Gabe Davis game.
Oh, yeah. You weren't in the seats for that.
Nope. The number 6, Chris, what am I thinking of?
How many books OJ's written about the murder?
In fact, I have a joke about that later in the show. The number of air yards Josh Allen completed to wide receivers. 6 air yards to wide receivers. The number 3, once again, bringing it back. The number 3.
It's how many stab wounds Ron Goldman had.
Turnovers forced by the Bills defense, their first multi-turnover game in weeks. 153. What am I thinking of? Come on.
153?
153.
Is that how many rushing yards Cook had in the first half?
Yes! Winner! That's the first one you've gotten all season.
Probably ever.
Guys, let's just fire this right off the top. Chris, do you have the soundboard fired up? I want to lead into the show by talking about this week's Hero of the Week, running back James Cook.
Don't take it personally, all right? Franchise star players are a lot like Highlanders. There can only be one.
Do you want to talk about Highlanders? I don't even know that we saw a Highlander performance. I have a hard time describing what we just watched. It was historic. Chris, there have been 1,049 games played in Buffalo Bills franchise history. And over that span of time, we've seen some absolute monsters at running back, some studs, some bona fide, number 1 running back on any team in the NFL level talents play for the Buffalo Bills. Cookie Gilchrist, LaShawn McCoy, Joe Cribbs, Willis McGahee, Marshawn Lynch, Travis Henry, Fred Jackson. We have seen, I know it's funny how Fred Jackson creeps into that list, but he's in the top 5 for franchise rushing.
You never said Thurman Thomas out of all those backs.
Those are just the top. That's just the top. Then you get Thurman Thomas, who somehow was not a first ballot Hall of Famer. He had to wait till his second bite at the apple. And OJ Simpson, who was a slammed, from the free throw line, tomahawk slam dunk, lock to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. All of those players have worn a Buffalo Bills jersey and have run the football on our team's behalf. Good or bad, the Buffalo Bills have been generally, throughout their existence, synonymous with really, really great running back play, usually while also having a terrible passing offense, which is hilarious because it kind of mirrors what our current existence feels like. Sunday, James Cook threw his hat into the ring and entered that conversation, and at least starting to maybe be talked about in the same way so many of these other greats have been talked about, at least, if nothing else, statistically speaking. He crushed some real milestones. And I want to run down to, because I don't think some of you are like, oh, James Cook had a big game. It wasn't just a big game. It was a big game for a team that has been fueled by, like, lived and died by their running back play. Chris, is the K-Gun offense the same without Thurman Thomas?
Nope.
This team, at its best, had to have amazing running back play. Even at its worst, it was carried by its running backs. That was half the reason we could never be bad enough to get a top quarterback in the draft. Our running backs were just good enough that they could keep us in a lot of football games. The 153 yards at halftime that James Cook had on just 12 carries, do you know how crazy that is? That's 12.75 yards per touch. Every time you gave James Cook the football in the first half of that game, he got he got a first down every time he touched the ball on average, which is crazy. Only 16 players in franchise history have 153 yards in a game. That's crazy. He did it in a half. He's now the second in franchise history for having stellar first halves. You know who had better, Chris?
OJ Simpson.
Kenny Davis against Atlanta had 181 yards on 18 carries back in 1990. I think it was like 1993, which almost makes you wonder what would have happened if James Cook in this game had gotten those 6 extra carries that Kenny Davis got against Atlanta. He definitely could have caught him, right? I mean, what, 28 yards?
Yeah, well, you finished at 216.
I feel even better about that when you realize that on his 17th carry of the game, just 5 touches later, James Cook broke his personal NFL rushing record over 200 yards. And on his 18th touch, he scored his second touchdown and became the second most successful single game rusher in Bills franchise history since OJ Simpson got 276 back in 1976, a decade before I was born.
I like it. Yeah, E. Griff said in the comments, he's still finished with 11.8 yards per carry.
It's insanity. Like Roy Collins, let's not get carried away with Cook. He had a run for -1 yards. Oh, good. He had one run for -1 yards. Do you want to talk about statistical anomalies? If you get into next-gen stats, okay, for this week, Derrick Henry had a massive week. He scored 2 touchdowns. He powered the offense. You know, what was it? What did Derrick Henry have? 71 yards, 2 touchdowns. Everyone goes, hey, Henry's back. Do you know what his rushing yards over expected was? See, rushing yards over expected is always this is why I like some of these.
I can't get into these nerd stats.
Well, you can't get into them, but it helps you show how good the individual talent of a player is in a given game, in a given season. So when you talk about rushing yards over expected, they talk about it's almost like yards after contact on steroids. The play should have ended here, and it didn't. James Cook kept running. Do you know the percentage of his yardage that came over where he was supposed to be tackled?
No.
73.7%. Guys met James Cook in the rushing lane, and James Cook churned more yardage out of that play 73.7% of all of his carries. That's crazy. And it's not like they did it against slouches. Like, it would be one thing if you were the...
Does that get factored in on his long touchdown run, considering he went untouched?
Yeah, because in their minds, they go, well, that was expected. you were expected to find the crease because nobody got in your way. Nobody touched you. Nobody physically contacted you. So those rushing yards are not factored into and that's why I love that statistic. And to see James Cook just wail on everybody, just blow the doors off this thing. His rushing yards over expected per attempt was 6.34. Do you know who the next closest was for the week?
No idea.
It was James Cook, then Jonathan Taylor, then Saquon Barkley. That's pretty good company to exist in, huh?
Yes.
And then you think about what those guys are getting paid, and then you think about what James Cook's getting paid. It's a steal. And then I think maybe the best statistical thing of the day. Do you know that in the process of having the game that James Cook had on Sunday, he broke his brother's career high rushing record in a single game?
So he is the best Cook.
His brother had 206 yards in a single game. James Cook beat him. Also, his brother was the last running back in the NFL to have 150 yards or more in a single half. He beat him. And what I loved was that after the game, people were joking with him about that stat. Like, oh, hey, did you know that you beat your brother Singh? He goes, not only do I know it, I know what I'm going to text him here when y'all leave the room. Now, that is the kind of pettiness we here at the Rockpile Report can get behind. And everybody in attendance must raise a glass now. Must raise a glass to the pettiest version of James Cook we've ever seen. And what I love is that unlike the performance in this game, this is so good. It's like I'm drinking molasses. But I know I gotta be easy because she'll hurt you.
Yeah.
She'll get you.
I got it last winter, so it's no longer available.
The old soul. God. Unlike the performance of our front seven or our secondary, Cook's day didn't come at the expense of a bunch of slouches, some backup caliber players, and a bunch of NFL geriatrics. This is a team that held Devin Achane to 1.6 yards per carry when they played the Dolphins. And they held Dallas as a team to just 31 total rushing yards. This is a very good front seven that is very stout when it comes to filling rushing lanes with integrity, maintaining gap assignments. They play the game. They're not explosive, but they play the front seven the way it's supposed to be played. This was one hell of a performance for the ages by blocker and runner. And I hope it's not the best we'll see from them all year, because something tells me we're going to need more of it as we dig into the gory, ugly statistics of this thing. Before we move on from James Cook, though, it's kind of funny because I remember a time when myself included, I'm willing to out myself as one of these people who sat there in the summer going, I don't know why the Bills are talking about paying James Cook. I don't know why this is even a conversation. You don't pay a running back. They're not worth that $14 million a year. Chris, right now, knowing what the Bills offense is, I want you to picture what this offense would be if it was Ray Davis and Frank Gore Jr. back there every Sunday.
We would be the Dolphins.
Okay. Point taken. I don't think I have to expand on it any farther. You get it. Those of you in the chat, what do you think? Ralph Wilson Sr., 140 yards before contact. Yeah. James Cook and that offensive line are just this elite pairing of talent and blocking. I can't wait to get into the trench play. But if you think about what this room could be, if Brandon Beane had listened to the fan base that was out here going, running backs don't matter. What do we need to pay a running back for? And everyone goes, oh, the first time running, Greg Thompson has a tweet, which luckily for this, I was too tired. I've been too worn down and I couldn't get all the fancy on-screen ads because I was going to have Greg Thompson's tweet of the first time that Brandon Beane pays a running back will be the first time. Well, we're all really lucky this was the first time because our offense left to guys like Chris. Every time James Cook comes off the field, our team gets less explosive. And I watched it multiple occasions this weekend. We got into field goal range twice. And then both times they'd be like, okay, James Cook is winded. Let's get him off the field. Let's get Ray Davis. Let's put Ty Johnson out there. He got sacked. Like the first two times that we got into field goal range, they'd take James Cook off the field. Josh Allen immediately gets sacked on both drives and forces field goals. It's just mind-numbing how little of this works when you take away James Cook. Like, he might be the best player on our offense right now.
Correct.
Which is scary considering you're sharing the backfield with an NFL MVP. That's a problem. So can we celebrate the fact that his contract suddenly looks really, really, really good compared to some of the other running back money that's floating around out there? Like, he's performing in the territory of your Saquon Barkleys, your Christian McCaffreys, your who else? Jonathan Taylors. And we're paying less for it. So for as many people want to talk about how Brandon Beane lost his fastball, myself included, I don't think he's done a perfect job this offseason, but this is pretty good. This one thing, knowing you had to get it done, you look back and it's almost like Happy Gilmore where you're looking at it's Chris when Steve Buscemi shows up and shoots that guy. And he's like, man, am I glad I called that guy. That's Brandon Beane right now looking at James Cook going, man, we're all really happy we have you here, Jimbo. And I don't think it would feel that glaring if we didn't talk a little bit about some of the gory statistics that surround our quarterback right now, because that's a problem. It's a real issue. In terms of trying to throw the football, we're very lucky that we've had this, the white Bronco day, Chris. James Cook was the white Bronco just running away from the Panthers defense the entire day. In terms of trying to pass the ball, the Bills got massacred. Okay. And I question how much of it was the Panthers playing standout pass defense and how much was us just being inept.
Josh Allen played like Ron Goldman trying to get away from OJ. He didn't run. You didn't do a good job.
What I do know is that there's things you can say, right? Like, you can sit here and you can blame Josh Allen, right? And there is some of that. There is something to be said for Josh Allen really looking pedestrian over the early course of this season. He's had some flashes of brilliant player. He'll make a throw where you go, that's a Josh Allen throw. That's vintage. But a lot of times it makes you're watching a play and you go, did we just trip and fall into an MVP? Was that an accident? Did everyone else just suck so badly that the bar got lowered? I don't know. But it makes those MVP caliber performances feel like they were forever ago. Yeah, and I don't know what to do with that feeling. I don't know where to park those emotions. Some of that is, as we've discussed, the fact that Dalton Kincaid is this team's most explosive downfield weapon, and he barely played. He missed the Atlanta game, and this team had no downfield passing whatsoever, and the Falcons knew it, and they leaned on us. And then in this game, if it wasn't for the Khalil Shakir catch and run, Chris, how many passing yards does Josh Allen have? If you take away that 50-yard touchdown,
I think it was slightly over 50 yards. He probably would have had like 111.
100, and that's mind-boggling for a quarterback with Josh Allen's skill set. And so you throw in his own self-critique and his own criticisms, and it would be really easy to lay all of this at the altar of Josh Allen and say he just needs to be better. I know, because my text messages, I'm getting like 4 or 5 of them now every week where they're like, well, Josh stinks. And I go, well, yeah, but what's more likely, Chris, that the scheme has failed or that Josh Allen went from hero to zero and he went from NFL MVP to Andy Dalton in his prime overnight?
I think he would have had 109 yards without that Shakir touchdown.
One of the things that I watched last night in the Monday Night Football game.
You weren't watching baseball?
No, fuck baseball. Yeah, I'd stayed up for all 18 innings. 18 innings? A game that goes on for 7 hours? You're all out of your minds. I'd rather die. I would rather have one of my eyeballs gouged out of my skull than watch an 18-inning baseball game. Are you crazy? What's wrong with you people? You're sick.
I only made it to 6th inning.
As you should.
Well, it's because I went to bed.
I'm watching Monday Night Football, and there's a moment where The Washington Commanders have this play covered beautifully. There is nobody open. Unfortunately, the pass rush doesn't get home. So Patrick Mahomes is in the pocket for a full 5 seconds. And at the end of that 5 seconds, Travis Kelce just kind of realizes, I got to do something. And he bails out of his protection job, makes himself available, and takes off to the races for about 48 yards. And because the secondary was doing so good monitoring the wide receivers, they completely forgot about him, and he just took off. I look at that play and I go, do you know that not once this season do I feel like there's a single Bills skill player who has made themselves available to Josh when he's in trouble? It's almost like they're so robotic in what they do that none of them are thinking about Josh. They have no relationship with him. It's just, this is what the play call is. I'm going to run the play call, and no matter what happens, I'm going to do my job for the given play. And then they turn around and Josh is on the ground getting sacked, and they go, all right, well, it sucks to be Josh. There's no, between offensive coordinator not understanding when to stop calling mesh, when they're like, oh, they're putting a blitz personnel package on the field. You probably shouldn't do that because it's a long developing route that Josh is going to try to hit because he thinks he can score points. It's just, there's none of that Kansas City dynamic here in Buffalo. And the ugliest of the stats of this dynamic, like what it creates, a lot of it was put on display this Sunday. It turned the individual talents on the Bills offense basically into Al Cowlings. It's not their fault that this shit show keeps churning down the highway, but they're the ones we see with their foot on the gas, making it happen and driving us up just right up a damn wall. I want to, Joe Buscaglia over there at The Athletic had a number of just the gross statistics surrounding this. Of the 180 yards that Josh Allen had, 71% of them, 127, came after the catch. Do you know that if you took all of them out of the equation, he would have under 100 yards passing for the game? On completed passes, his average depth of target was just 3.92 yards. So we're back to playing Trent Edwards football with a talent like Josh Allen. And if you just isolate wide receivers had 8 completions for 6 total air yards. This thing is fundamentally broken. There are teams much less talented than the Buffalo Bills churning out better passing attacks than we are right now. And I don't care if you don't think the Bills have a wide receiver one, if you think Keon Coleman is dogging it. You can't have that performance. Your wide receiver room can't produce that little for you. It just can't. Not for you to be a consistently competitive NFL offense. What do you think about that, Chris? When you hear me talking about these disgusting statistics around how this passing game has failed over and over again, and then it seems like it peaked in this last game.
I forget who tweeted it out. You actually might have it in our bookmarks, but somebody listed all the completed passes that Josh made, and like 7 of them were screen passes. There's no downfield passing at all. I mean, I did mention it in the comments earlier. I almost ripped your television off the wall, that sack he took, where he ran around for about 10 seconds. I almost ripped the television off your goddamn wall.
Yeah, guys, just to run you through, this is from yards per pass on Twitter. First pass, here's all 12 of the completions. A screen to Shakir. A screen to Shakir. Deep over to Kincaid against cover 1. So he had free release off the line, got behind the linebacker level, and was wide open for a pass, and the safety brought him down. Scramble drill to Knox, screen to Shakir, boot flat to Hawes, quick into Shakir, stick to Shakir, boot shallow to Coleman, 0-step slant off coverage, which was a called run that he audibled to just a quick slant to Coleman, a screen to Shakir, and a mesh to Hawes. Shallow mesh. Those are your 12 completions. Not a single one of those are a threatening play or a play that might generate a touchdown. It was just, hey, I'm going to throw you a screen and hope the blocking can do the work. What does that tell you about the structure of a passing attack? If you literally are afraid to take shots down the field against a team and instead are just, well, we'll just throw screen passes. That seems like a bad idea, right?
Yeah, we had like none of what you read off was like seam pass to Knox or Kincaid or Hawes.
Nope.
None of that. Nothing downfield.
At no point did they even attempt to get the ball downfield. And this is where I say, I no longer blame the talent. I think you are structurally broken. I think that in your pursuit of being what you want to be in the run game, you have lost what it is to be a good passing offense. You have talent that is capable of threatening teams in different ways. I watched the Raiders at least try to throw the ball down the field. The Bills aren't even trying. That's a problem. That's a real problem, and I don't know what to do about it. None of us do. Sean McDermott clearly doesn't know what to do about it because every time they ask him about it in post-game press conferences, he's frustrated, right? But for all these numbers that I'm rattling off about Sunday, there's another set of numbers that I broke into in terms of research that makes some of almost the indignation of this team make a little more sense. We here as fans have been pounding the table forever going, get better pass catchers. You let go of Diggs and your plan was everybody eats. Okay, but everybody has to eat with some actual talent here on the field. It can't just like it's clear they put a lot of their chips into the basket of, hey, Keon Coleman's just going to develop into a separation artist. That hasn't happened. Hey, Keon Coleman's going to win contested balls. That hasn't happened. So now we're stuck living in this place where the offense really struggles. But do you know, and some of you might be shocked to hear this, Chris, extra lightning round, the number 18, do you know what that is?
Elijah Moore's number?
It's the number of under 180-yard passing games Josh Allen has had since 2020. 18 times since 2020, Josh Allen has thrown for less than 180 yards. Chris, do you know how many of those he's won?
None of them.
14. The Buffalo Bills have won 14 out of the 18 games where Josh throws less than 180 yards. So while we can all sit here as fans and point out that this feels like Sisyphus just pushing the rock uphill to constantly roll back down on you in terms of offense. And it feels like we've taken something that with an MVP quarterback and this caliber of running back should be just easy buttons, right? Like you should be racking up points the way the Sean McVay Rams did during the Star Wars era of their offense, where they were at their peak. We're out here slogging out games, watching our quarterback, our star, who we know has talent because we've watched him be an MVP. We've watched this thing fall off a cliff, and yet they're still winning football games. And so while we're out here pointing to all of the struggles that we feel, the reality is that if you're just looking up at the numbers and trying to frame it by wins and losses and not just within a passing performance, but also a need to field a cap solvent football team for an extended period of time, I can absolutely see how a person like a GM or a coach might look at this dynamic and despite all of our screaming on the radio, on social media, like maybe some people like drive by his house and yell with a megaphone. I don't know. I would if I knew where he lived.
Who, Bean?
Yeah.
I know where he lives.
Oh, I think I do too now that you said it.
Yeah.
That just confirmed it for me. Hey, guys.
That's an old Uber story.
Oh, my God. We got to get that on. See, this is why we need Patreon. All I'm saying is I can see how a GM might see that even though our quarterback has 18 games where he threw under 180 yards since 2020 over the last 5 years, they've won almost all of them. 14 out of 18. Chris, that win percentage is huge.
Kevin said in the chat all 14 teams sucked.
Well, of course they do, but a lot of NFL teams suck compared to the Buffalo Bills. And so if you're talking to the GM as a coach, or a position coach whose job is kind of mired in, hey, I have to improve my unit. And they go, okay, the GM goes to his staff and says, hey guys, how's the development of this passing game going? Because I'm not seeing the results. And they go, no, don't worry, man. Like these rookies, they're getting it. The new faces, Jordan Palmer's right around the corner. And Joshua Palmer, Jordan Palmer, doesn't fucking matter. He's a Palmer who's not producing, which seems to fit the motif. You've got guys like Curtis Samuel, and they go, no, Bean, you don't understand. Curtis Samuel's right there because they don't want to be seen as the coach who couldn't develop him. And then they turn around and they go, okay, McDermott, what do you think? And he goes, well, I trust my coaching staff to a degree. Like, I could absolutely see how every position coach coming out trying to say, hey, don't worry, we have the answers in-house. And then McDermott last week in his press conference before the bye says, we have the answers in-house. I'm convinced of that. All the right things about development and growth and being patient. You can get Johnny Cochran into believing that all of this is going to be okay. It may still be, but just because the glove looks like it fits, Mr. Bean, does not mean that you should have quit. This wide receiver room and the play calling around them deserve no exoneration. You do not exonerate these men because this is their fault. They've done this to us. Hopefully, before this week is over, the Bills Brain Trust recognizes that. Because this will remain one of the glaring flaws and one of the reasons that this team does not fulfill what it's truly capable of at this point in its existence. And it'll be their fault. It'll all be self-inflicted. Now, it's not all doom and gloom. You look at some of the dynamics from this past weekend, the trench warfare that we saw from this team on both sides of the ball was incredible. I love watching Spencer Brown play football. First of all, if anyone's ever noticed, he tapes his fingers together like this, and he looks like a Ninja Turtle. The Ninja Turtles, if any of you grew up with that and you pay attention, they only have 3 fingers. And he goes out there with Ninja Turtle hands and just body bags people. And then he doesn't, it's not even that he's doing it with authority and with a nastiness. And one of my favorite things of the weekend was Teddy Bandana, oh shit, Drew's on a heater, ordering the court. Yes. I'll be held in contempt by the time this thing's over. So one of my favorite parts about watching Spencer Brown play football is making note of how many players get injured while they're trying to play against Spencer Brown. Do you know, I remember reading this thing last season. Somewhere it was like an obscure tweet, but some guy was like, here's a ranking of all the offensive linemen who have injured the defensive lineman across from them on like a rep this season. And Spencer Brown was in like the top 4. And when you watch him play, it's not hard to see why. He plays dirtbag football. And we've known this, and I love him for that. Like, he finishes every one of his blocks with authority. What I like more than that, though, was seeing that he wasn't the only one this week. Spencer Brown, Jackson Hawes, and Reggie Gilliam allowed to play in 22 and 21 personnel with James Cook is just, it's almost unfair to the other team. Jackson Hawes is a blocking savant. He really does. He's a steal of a draft pick. You watched the guys, Tyler Warren gets drafted in the first round by the Colts. And great, he's catching the ball well. So's Dalton Kincaid. And we drafted him in the first round. But what Jackson Hawes is doing, like beyond him, like Colson Loveland, I haven't followed the guy enough. But what I do know is neither one of them hold a candle to what Jackson Hawes is doing in terms of run blocking. He's still one of the NFL's best, both analytically, statistically. Jackson Hawes is a beast. And do you know that, Chris, the Bills are 5-0 when he catches 1 pass in a game?
Good stat.
Well, what that shows you, people look at it and they go, okay, that's a fluke. No, it's not. What it means is that when the team is in its bag and it's really utilizing that tight end room to its fullest extent, the team wins games. That's what's going to be required because this is what the Bills are. They did the thing Rex Ryan said he was going to do. They built a bully. And I don't even think they meant to do it. They threw a dart throw at a tight end pick in the 5th round and said, hey, maybe he'll develop into something. He's out there bullying people, tenured NFL linebackers at the second level. He's bullying them. And I think the wrinkle that they added in that we hadn't seen enough of this season was Reggie Gilliam. Reggie Gilliam playing this week, I saw him on multiple plays, some of them long gains for James Cook, just digging out linebackers out of the hole. I remember when I got asked to do that for a hot minute in like football when I was younger. It lasted all of like 3 practices, and the coaches were like, you're way too slow. You're way too slow. The running back's just going to beat you to the hole. You're useless as a fullback. When Reggie Gilliam gets in there in front of James Cook, it's not because he's faster or more athletic. He's getting there as a battering ram. And they paved the way for one of the most prolific rushing days in Bills history. Him and Jackson Hawes together. Dawson Knox, Spencer Brown, those guys were wild. And I think that there's something else. There was a moment in this game, and I don't know if any of you saw the video. If not, go to Rockpile Report. I'll retweet it right now, and you will find it. I want to hear your thoughts about this in the comments. There's a moment. Ashawn Robinson, I'm very familiar with his game. He was an Alabama defensive lineman, standout.
Is this post-game with Doc?
Yeah. So Ashawn Robinson is a standout defensive lineman for the in the NFL, but also in the NCAA, he was a man playing with boys. But he wasn't a pass rusher. He was just a tree stump. He would root himself to the ground and you literally could not move him. And he was nasty. He would cheap shot you after the play. He was just too big and too physical for anyone to mess with. And there's a moment that was captured on film where during the post-game handshakes, Ashawn Robinson came over and tried to give Deion Dawkins the business, and the two of them got into it. They had to be separated by coaches and fellow players, and it got ugly. Do you know what a blessing it is that we have a very technical left tackle? And everyone goes, oh, he's technical. You know, he's just technical about how he does his job. And you have Spencer Brown, and he supplies all the big and ugly and nasty. And then you see Deion Dawkins getting into fights with guys after the game. Like, what was it, with the Jets?
Oh, yeah, he doesn't like that one guy on the Jets.
And now we see it again with Ashawn Robinson, and it's like, guys, I tell you, Dawkins is rough business. You just don't see it from snap to snap to snap because he's so technical. He's also does his thing where he's kind of he's a piece of garbage, but he likes it. And I love that for him. That we have this offensive line that to a man, every single one of them, it's like that I think you should leave sketch, Chris. I used to be a piece of shit. I'm not, but I used to be. And then Dawkins and all those guys are like, yeah, but I can go back there anytime I want to. I can just go back to being that. And they managed to find that when it matters every Sunday. The offensive, the blocking scheme in this game was a thing of beauty to watch. Now I'm looking at this. I'm looking in the comments. Chris, scroll up here a little bit. First of all, Josh is bent on rolling out on the run, making things happen. Drop back, not him. All right, Sal. Well, guess what? Why do you think Josh Allen's rolling out? Maybe it's because the protection's not there and there's nobody open, and he's just hoping if he keeps the play alive long enough, somebody will be. And that's how you end up with him getting sacked for a loss on that third down play where his jersey got pulled out from underneath his shirt got pulled out from underneath his jersey. Like that, he had 6.5 seconds and couldn't find an open receiver. That's embarrassing. That's embarrassing on the coordinator for allowing that to happen within your offensive structure. Oh, let's take a look here. My condolences on your aging. I bet his hair is slicked back and nice. Yeah, Teddy Bandana gets it. He had the slick back hair, lives for New Year's Eve, white Lamborghini, like real pieces of shit.
Yeah, Jared in the comments just turned 40, so we're letting him know of all the injuries that are going to start piling up for him.
Mine started at 30. I literally turned 30 and immediately tore my meniscus.
Well, you're not athletic.
I was doing 3-foot box jumps when I tore it. You can't jump 3 inches.
Yeah, because I'm not a gorilla.
So On the other side of the ball, the defensive line, Chris, those defensive ends, good God, what a performance. That's a performance for the ages. And I think...
Are we going to talk about the AJ Epinesa interception?
Yes, let's talk about it.
Do we start there?
Yeah.
I've seen him make those plays before where he can sniff out a screen, but I've never seen him catch one like that yet. I mean, if he caught it clean, he would have been in the end zone.
Well, he had a chance. So we saw it in the Saints game in the 4:00 window where Spencer Rattler throws up, and then I think it was Joshua Nelson or Anthony Nelson, whatever his name is, just roofs the ball and then stiff arms the quarterback to the ground and walks into the end zone. AJ Epinesa had an opportunity to do that if he didn't double clutch the ball. But I go back to like a Chiefs game a few years ago when AJ Epinesa intercepts a screen pass. And that's like turnover on down. It was a game the Bills won in Kansas City. And everyone goes, oh, AJ Epinesa. It's like AJ Epinesa might right now be the best version of himself, and it's just in time for a contract year. Anybody notice that? Just in time for a contract year, here comes AJ Epinesa. Woo! He's here he comes. He's going to put on a performance this year. He's going to finish the year with 7.5, 8 sacks, maybe 9. And he's going to have a couple interceptions. He's going to have a couple forced fumbles, bunch of tackles for loss. And you're going to go, hey, maybe he finally became the player we thought he could be. Let's give him a raise. We'll bump him up to $10 million a year. And then he'll go right back to being the 5-sack-a-year guy. I don't know. I just know that his performance anchored what was awesome. Because if you think about the offensive line for the Panthers, it's not like they haven't put resources into building it. Like Ekekwanyu.
You saying that correctly?
Yes. First round draft pick. His first name, well, they call him Ike. It's Ikem Ekwanyu. And their right tackle, Taylor Moton, second round pick. Mm-hmm. Their offensive line at the tackle position is supposed to be pretty good. We know the interior of the offensive line is not great. That's why I expected our defensive tackles to eat. To protect their aging, unathletic quarterback, they left their tackles on an island with our defensive ends, and it did not go well for them. And I guess the question I have is, Ekwanyu, he's a bona fide NFL talent. He's a good player in the NFL. You know, drafted in 2022. He's not exactly a rookie. He's tenured, and he plays really well. Is he better than what the Chiefs are going to roll out next week? Maybe. I'd make an argument that he's probably better than the swing tackle for the Kansas City Chiefs. Jawan Taylor at right tackle hasn't been a world beater since they signed him.
Juwana man.
Taylor Moton maybe isn't what he used to be, but at the same time, he's still better than a lot of other NFL tackle talent we've played, and these guys got mauled. They got their lunch fed to them by this defensive line. Watching Michael Hoyt play was incredible. Watching Michael Hoyt be able to go speed to power, cross chop, I have moves, I'll just bull rush the right tackle directly into Andy Dalton's lap. Watching Michael Hoyt's impact on what this pass rush was, it's like, oh, this is why Bean wanted to sign you last year. This is why Bean wanted you the last time you were up for free agency. And then you saw, like, even losing Oliver as early in the game as when we did. It didn't miss a beat. They kept moving him around. They'd put him on the interior of the line. He was a menace. He'd occupy multiple blockers, and then it was Greg Rousseau coming free off the edge. Joey Bosa looked good. This might be the best four-man rotation at defensive end we've had. Am I crazy for saying under Sean McDermott, point blank and period?
Possibly.
I mean, who did we have before us? What was it? They brought in Mario Addison at one point, who was just a retread from the Panthers.
Star Latulele.
Well, he was a defensive tackle, but defensive ends. They signed that project guy from the Washington Commanders who I think he tore his Trent Murphy. He tore his ACL, and they were like, oh, no, we'll get him on the cheap, and we'll rehab him, and he'll be good. And he wasn't ever good again. They kept trying for these project defensive ends, and they finally landed on Michael Hoyt. He's probably the best journeyman defensive end or pass rusher we've signed since Lorenzo Alexander. That was my takeaway from watching him play one game in a Bills uniform. I go, oh, I remember the Lorenzo Alexander experience, where this guy seemingly came out of nowhere as a free agent pickup I knew nothing about and just was a menace on the defensive line.
Pre-Thanksgiving ACL with Von Miller.
Yes, there we go. That's the last time I saw a move where I go, oh, that moved the needle for me. But Von Miller was a household name. You knew you were almost like, okay, the bar is set for what Von Miller could and should be. I came in with no expectations for Michael Hoyt, and watching him just maul the entire line of Carolina, I was like, oh man, this guy could be fascinating to watch play the game of football. He could be a lot of fun.
You know what else is fascinating? 1-0 Dodgers sacrifice fly.
And when you look at what the impact of what our defensive line as a whole was able to do, because they not only did they do a great job pass rushing, but they set the edge. They set the edge with authority against this team. And Chris, again, not like it was against a bunch of slouches. This is a team that's been rushing for hundreds of yards per game over the last 3 weeks. Do you know that Rico Dowdle had one 24-yard run? Okay, one. Do you know what his yards were on all of his other carries?
Less than 5.
2 yards per attempt off left end, 2 yards off left tackle, 5 yards on one carry off left guard. Off right end, he had one carry for 12 yards. That was his entire day. We bottled him up. We made him irrelevant. And yeah, he broke away. That 24-yard run he had, Jordan Hancock showed up, shut the whole thing down. It could have ruined the game, but it didn't. And then I think they turned the ball over a few plays later, and that was a wrap on they're threatening to score. The Buffalo Bills front seven thrives when that defensive line does its job and plays with some authority. This was the first time I think I've seen it all year long. Would you agree with me?
Yeah. It's
guys in the chat. The defensive line played like they needed to be playing. You know, who in the chat right now firmly believes that even without Ed Oliver, think about what you watched. This might have been the most authoritative performance by the defensive line all season.
When did Ed Oliver go down? First, second?
I want to say it was before halftime.
Yeah, next week's going to be a challenge. I'm going to be interested to see how Babbage and McDermott run the rotation on the D-line with Ed Oliver out for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. So just the idea that spin, then Oliver gets hurt, so there goes that idea. I don't think Oliver disappearing has to mean we're dead in the water, Spin. I know that you're inclined to, like me, like I'm a guy who thrives off negativities. I love being negative. Nothing makes me happier than pointing out all the reasons that everything sucks and we're all going to die. And then when you don't, you go, well, I'm pleasantly surprised. I'm pleasantly surprised the worst thing didn't happen. If this was the movie Aliens, I'm the first person to turn into Hudson. It's all over, man. Game over. But then also, you still have to come and get me. You still got to come. And when it doesn't happen, I go, all right, it's pretty good. Things went better than I expected. I feel like that's what I walked away with this game. Like about the 2025 draft class and just what they showed. Like people have been really down on what the Bills did this offseason. And rightfully so. We didn't address pass catcher, and now it's blowing up in our face. We didn't address depth at certain positions that are now coming back to haunt us. And people have notably been down on by the contributions of the 2025 NFL draft class for the Buffalo Bills. So, here we are 6 months, Chris, after the draft. And in this game, with the return of Max Harrison, we finally got to see some of the youth on this team have itself some real moments and in their expanded roles. And it was really good to see, considering the team health that we've been laboring under. Max Harrison comes in, and what I love was he split series. He played every other series with Trey White. Did you catch that?
No.
Of course not. You were watching it. I was just boozing, being a showman.
Yeah, I barely saw you, and I was at your house.
He split reps with Trey White the same way Dorian Strong did before Dorian Strong's injury. So one thing I want to talk about right off the top, what does that say about Trey White's role on this team if and when all of their cornerbacks that they brought to training camp are healthy? Like, Chris, if they're willing to make every rookie split time and split reps with Trey White, doesn't that tell you something about what they see Trey White as? For all the people who screamed about how stupid our coaching staff was, oh, I can't believe they're trusting Trey White. That wasn't the plan. Trey White was the break glass in case of emergency. And I'm sorry it didn't go the right way. It didn't go the way everybody wanted it to. We're here now. So with that in mind, Max Hairston comes in. He was notably more fluid, had more explosion. He was just faster than I think Chris, I haven't seen a cornerback who moved like that.
I mean, I didn't notice Hairston at all.
Because they didn't target him. So you had no reason to be looking at him as a lay fan watching it on TV. But when you go back and you rewatch the game, like, that's why I love this NFL Plus service. I get to go back and I get to rewatch like the 30-minute condensed version and go, well, there's a play I want to know more about. Timestamp that. And then I go back and I just find it on all 22 and I watch it. Hairston was so fluid and he made these explosive cuts where, like, you have an in-breaking route. Trey White would have been off on his heels already and wouldn't have the recovery speed to come back inside on that. You know, I'm thinking last night there was the play just like it in the Monday Night Football game where Xavier Worthy makes a break up the sideline and then cuts in hard. And Trey Amos is shadowing him in coverage. Another rookie that everyone was saying, oh my God, I can't believe we drafted Hairston and not Amos. Look at how good he's doing. And it was the same type of play. It was a bang thing of the in cut. And Amos has to crash down and basically commit PI, but not get called for it and break up the pass. Well, on Hairston's rep, the guy comes in and cuts across his face, and Hairston never loses him. He just sticks with him. And they don't throw at that guy. That's the reason you didn't draft Trey Amos. Trey Amos was going to have to live and die by his physicality. Max Hairston, what you were looking for was a guy who literally could run Xavier Worthy's route with him. Run it step for step. Stay in his hip pocket. When he makes that in cut, you don't disappear. You don't have to have recovery speed because you're already in his hip pocket and you just don't leave it. I got to see that from Max Hairston. And that made me feel so much better about the fact that we spent a first-round pick on him. And I just hope that some of you guys can get over your, shoot, I'm in North Carolina and I forgot to join. Tracy, we forgive you. We don't hold grudges. Jeremy Rogers, great to hear from the All-22 of you. Yeah, no, Max Hairston had a day. Like, the reason that they weren't throwing at Max Hairston is because Max Hairston didn't leave his guys open. Andy Dalton looked around as an NFL veteran going, man, I'm really trying not to throw picks here. He came into this game not with no arrogance, knowing I have to avoid picks. I'm not going to throw at Max Hairston because every time I look over there at the guy he's covering, he's pretty well covered. And I can't do anything about that. This Tank Ninja was Poyer splitting with that guy they got from Ohio State. So I'm glad you brought that up. Jordan Hancock. There's a moment with Jordan Hancock in this game. We all saw it, right? Like when Dowdle breaks through the front seven and he's taking off through the middle of the defense and you go, fuck, here we go again. Here's the Buffalo Bills front seven. And all of a sudden, Jordan Hancock just tackles him around the waist and brings him down in the open field. And you go, holy shit, where's that been? Where's that guy been? Where's it been any of this? Do you know my first thought, Chris? Rewatching it. Hamlin wouldn't have made that tackle.
No, he would have taken the wrong angle.
We're on our third safety. At this point, it's Jordan Hancock. And the funny thing about it is that his athleticism was such a breath of fresh air for this safety room. Because you go, oh man, I have a guy who can get the right angle on a ball carrier, doesn't matter, wide receiver, running back, and can come down and make a tackle. He doesn't have to be special. He doesn't have to do anything splashy. He's not Nick Emenwari, okay? Emenwari is a specimen for the Seahawks, and there's a reason he was taken at the top of the second round. He was a guy I wanted for the Buffalo Bills. But Jordan Hancock is still a better athlete than literally everything else we have as a backup in our safety room. He's probably up there with Rapp and Bishop, and he's definitely better than Poyer or Hamlin or whatever else we might have tried to trot out there. And so in this way, I think that Jordan Hancock's addition to this team, we just got to see a small bit of it. But it was enough to understand why they wanted him, why they prioritized him, why they needed him. Right? We needed a burst in that secondary for our backups. And one thing I love talking to people about when it comes to the safety room for the Buffalo Bills, people lament the days. They go, oh, back in the day when we, Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer. Do you guys know what they were before they got here, or did you all just show up when Josh Allen got good? I'm not trying to be offensive. I'm just asking a legitimate question. Did you all forget that there were times where we were relying on a guy who got brought into town as a free agent, who was a former fourth-round draft pick of the Green Bay Packers, in Micah Hyde? He played slot cornerback, and he played special teams as a punt returner. And the Bills signed him to a free agent contract and said, you're going to be our starting free safety. You moonlighted there for a few games with Green Bay, but we think you have what it takes to be a star in this system. They went out to the market and they found a guy named Jordan Poyer, who, when he was a 7th-round draft pick as an Oklahoma State Badger, what was it? Who were the Badgers? It wasn't Oklahoma State. Who was it?
The Badgers or Wisconsin?
Yeah. No, there was somebody. Whoever the hell Jordan Poyer was, it wasn't a named school, and he's a 7th-round draft pick to the Browns. And then he gets a ruptured spleen on a special teams play. And you go, shit, this Jordan Poyer, this football thing doesn't seem to be working out for you. You play a really physical position. You don't do it well. You were a 7th-round draft pick because you're not a special athlete. Like, I don't know what we're going to do with you, man. Maybe you're not cut out for the NFL. And the Bills go, give me that guy. Give me that guy. If nothing else, he can play special teams. We have a feeling he could be something special for us. And both of them go on to be all pros because of the system Sean McDermott runs and the way Leslie Frazier and Sean McDermott built the defense. When you see them backstopping poor athleticism with better athleticism, that's not a mistake. What it is them going, okay, we tried the Hamlin route. We said, hey, we want instincts over traits. Now they're going, hey, let's get traits. And he has some instincts, and he seems to take good angles. Let's see what comes of that. That's such a boon to the Buffalo Bills that nobody is thinking about, because it doesn't just pay dividends now. I'm not expecting it to pay off in 2025. But Jordan Hancock's pick might be a legitimate thing we're talking about here, because everyone loves the Xavier Watts conversation. Oh, we should have taken him over Landon Jackson. I don't know. Maybe by the time all's said and done, Xavier Watts and maybe Jordan Hancock are at least close enough in terms of what they're producing on an NFL football field that this is no longer a conversation. I just know I loved what I saw from him in the time he got to spend on the field. Another rookie from the class who really put his fingerprints on this game was Jackson Hawes. Again, like he needs any kind of introduction. But he did get 56% of the offensive snap share, which was his highest of 2025. Now, some of that has to do with the fact that Dalton Kincaid played 14 snaps. But in a game where their game plan was run the football, punch these guys in the mouth repeatedly, and let's go home, Jackson Hawes was on the field a ton. One of the things that I like about Hawes' game is that He plays well. It's almost like basketball or hockey, Chris. I feel like those two sports, there's a common denominator. The best teams are the ones that know how to move when the ball's not in their hands. The guys, like when you don't have the puck in hockey, knowing where to be, how to get there, how to create space, how to forecheck, like doing all the other work that goes into hockey is what makes you a professional.
Yeah.
When you think about some of the best power plays in hockey, it's motion, it's movement. It's, hey, I don't have the puck right now, but I got to work hard to get into a spot where the puck might come to me.
Yeah.
Jackson Hawes is doing that, but he's doing it in the NFL, where he's like, hey, I'm out here just dominating my blocks. I'm out here getting to the second level consistently. I'm out here roughing up tenured defensive linemen, tenured NFL linebackers. And oh, by the way, if you let me, I'll catch the ball. If you let me get loose, if you think I'm just a blocker, and let's say you as a coordinator decide not to cover me with an actual coverage linebacker, I can get behind that middle linebacker and make myself available, and I'll catch that football. He's showing that he can be something that this team leans on down the stretch here as he acclimates. Like Tank Ninja, better than having Shakir out there returning. Where are we talking? Yeah, did anyone see Keon Coleman returning punts? How far has that guy fallen? And that's where we talk about all the other people that need to make an impact to make up for the guys that we thought were going to be special, and they're not. So Keon Coleman getting bumped down the list to punt returner was one of the more insulting things I think that this team has done to Keon Coleman, but also we have to question. For everybody who goes, oh, he's not developing, it was a bad pick, it's this, it's that, the other thing, the team isn't coaching him. What is Keon Coleman behind the scenes? I have to wonder what you've done to be suspended for drives, for halves, multiple times by your own franchise. Like Chris, this isn't NFL sanctioned punishment. This is literally your team going, you're such a dick, I can't tolerate it anymore. We have to punish you.
Yes.
What is Keon Coleman doing? What is going on behind the scenes that's so bad that they're like demoting him? Hey, you're benched for a drive. Hey, you're our punt returner now. Why? Because it's how little we think of your involvement here. Or maybe it's just, hey, you need to find some way to contribute. Like, is this tough love?
I bet he's late to meetings.
I think it has to be bigger than that.
To me, it sounds like Keon's late to meetings. That's why he's getting these little minor, like you're benched for the first half, benched for a quarter, missing the first drive. You're on punt return duty. I think he's missing meetings.
I like Jared's suggestion in the comments. Bring power plays to the NFL. If you rough the passer, you're down a player for the next play. Chris, would you be a fan of that? Instead of roughing the passer,
I'll watch.
Instead of a 15-yard penalty, you just lose a player on the ensuing play.
Yeah, I'll watch.
I think that's fascinating, Jared. That's an amazing.
And speaking of power plays, 3-2 Buffalo.
Yeah, look at this, guys. The Bills' suffering is bringing out the best in the Buffalo Sabres. I've long said neither team can thrive together. They either have to be mediocre together or one has to fail so badly that the other
if
can
it
succeed.
holds the game-winning goal right now, Josh Dunn from Beck Malenstein and Matthias Samuelson.
What a mess.
Yeah, it is.
Ralph Wilson Sr., Keon is slower than a white Bronco on the freeway. Time to park him. It's not his fault. It's not his fault, I say as I grab another beer, and somehow I end up with two. Apparently, I've opened two, guys, and I've forgotten about it. So Jackson Hawes has played his role. He's been amazing. He's probably my favorite rookie, except Deion Walker. The Deion Walker conversation, like, this is a real Kyer Elam, Christian Benford thing, where the Buffalo Bills traded up to draft TJ Sanders. And then Deion Walker fell to them in the 4th round, or did they trade up to draft him too?
I think he was picked where he was picked.
Okay. Do you know that he led all defensive tackles in this game with a 59% share of the snap?
I like it.
He's an animal on the interior of the defensive line. When you look at his, and here's the thing, when people see the splash plays, because that's what gets run on social media, that's where most fans find out about their best players and get to see the plays where they go, oh, I saw Deion Walker and Deion Walker did XYZ, and it's only because they saw it on Twitter and because somebody that they like put it in front of their eyeballs and they go, oh, well, that's a good player. There's a tweet here, and I got to find it. I'm going through my bookmarks right now. Deion Walker. Oh,
I'm going to say this about Deion Walker, which I don't think the Bills do enough of this when it comes to drafting. So he had an injury in 2024, correct? This, according to Google, stress fracture in his back. He was on, I'm just saying, he was on a projection to be first, second round without the injury. So then the injury kind of derails his draft status. I wish Bean took more shots in later rounds at guys with projected to be first or second, but had some injury along the way, and that made them fall.
Now, that's a double-edged sword. And I know that you don't know this, but do you know who Andrew Voorhees is?
No. Is that your neighbor?
Not Jason Voorhees. Yeah, right. Not Jason Voorhees, Andrew Voorhees. And Andrew Voorhees, Sabres game is tied again. Look at Chris, you jinxed us.
Damn it.
So Andrew Voorhees was a very good interior offensive line prospect out of Stanford, and everyone assumed he would be like a day 2 pick. And then he tears up his knee, and they go, well, he's going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine. We're going to draft. And the Ravens pick him late in the draft. And I go, oh, it's a steal. Now, this is the third or fourth time the Ravens have done this in the past couple of years. Think about the guys, Chris. Who's the guy to Michigan who tore his knee up? Ojabo? They drafted Ojabo, going, he was supposed to be a first-round pick, and we drafted him. David Ojabo is a no-show in the NFL. Andrew Voorhees looks like a really poor interior offensive lineman who the Ravens are going to have to upgrade. It's not all roses when you throw darts at just any guy who used to be considered a first-round pick and then got hurt. It's not linear like that. That's not how growth works.
I would take stabs at that all day in the 5th, 6th, 7th round.
Calculated shots. Now, remember when I said Ashawn Robinson was fighting with Deion Dawkins?
Yes.
Here's the run stop percentage across all interior defensive linemen. Quinnen Williams at 15.1. Poona Ford, former Buffalo Bill Poona Ford, is somehow a world beater every year he's not on our team at 12.2. Sebastian Joseph Day, who Bills fans have been screaming for to be signed in free agency for years, at 11.8. And Deion Walker tied with Ashawn Robinson at 11.2. So NFL veteran, journeyman status type guy who's just a star at winning against the run. And Deion Walker as a rookie has just wandered in here and has matched his run stop percentage. And that's not even what he was drafted for. That's my point. They drafted Deion Walker to make him a 3-tech. Deion Walker's doing the job. Oh, he's doing the job. He's doing the damn thing. When you look at it in terms of defense and run stops, in this game, Deion Walker, he gets his. And he's also behind the line of scrimmage, and he's penetrating, and he's getting his force. Do you know he has a solo run stop in almost every game this year that he's played? Some point, Deion Walker breaks through the line of scrimmage and tackles the ball carrier for a loss.
Spin says he's got 7 tackles for loss this year.
He's incredible. He is incredible to watch play, even when it's not a pass rushing down. And then when it is, and you get to see some of the stuff he does, like the way he comes loose in that Dolphins game and forces the inaccurate throw from Tua that ends up in a game-changing interception. Deion Walker has been manna from heaven for this coaching staff. And then I think my favorite part of him from this game was the fumble recovery, because, Chris, that was a thing where, like, We all envision what that's like, right? Fumble recovery in the NFL. You get the ball. He's on the run. It hops up and he grabs it. And he looks exactly like a guy who got the ball and has no idea what to do now. He's like, well, I'll just rumble forward. And then at one point he tried to juke. You're tall and you're huge. You don't juke. What are you doing? Chris, I tell the story all the time about when I went to Mississippi State and I talked their accidentally talked one of their punt gunners into doing a tackle drill with me. And
like Johnny Knoxville.
And he crucified me. He hit me like Johnny Knoxville got hit by one of those bulls in the Jackass movie. And my friend who saw it flat out said, he goes, you made a sound that doesn't come out of the human body naturally. And like, I think about that and I go, you know what screwed me was I thought I would spin. And I go, when you're fat and slow, you don't spin. You just come to a complete stop. And that was Deion Walker with the ball in his hands. He's like, I'm going to juke him. No, you're not. You're just going to stop and get tackled. It was such a humanizing moment for such a big guy and such a young NFL talent. Drew, how did the linebackers look in the 22? Andrew, here's what I can say. All right, before we close the show, I want to address the comments because I know I go on. Chris gets on me all the time for this. He's like, you do have to address the listeners.
Also, Ryan Lasel gets on you about
Ryan
that.
Lasel also gets on me for this. One of the things I'll say is when you look at the flow of the linebackers, one of the things I loved is that for the first time in weeks since the start of the season, it really did look like they were getting sideline to sideline. And that's not something that we've seen. And a part of me wonders if the conversation during the bye week wasn't, hey, Babbage, you've made multiple public comments about the depth that these guys were playing at. I bet you have questions about where you should be playing them. One of the biggest developments of this bye week, Sean McDermott going, hey, I believe in all the guys. Oh, shit. Did I just break the microphone?
I don't know. Feel bad for anyone that just heard that.
Sorry, guys. This is what happens. Hang on. I'll allow the show to come to an end. I finished my drinking. I love it. So one of the things I noticed is that during the bye week, they come out and Sean McDermott is calling plays. He's got a play sheet. He very much looks like he's in the headset. And so in the post game, they asked the question, Sean, who was calling plays? He goes, well, it was a team effort. We're doing it together. Basically, that was a synopsis of what Sean McDermott had to say. Remember when they asked him, Chris, if he had considered taking over play calling duties? And he was like, no, I have faith in my guys. And then they came out of the bye week and they were like, hey, yeah, so Sean McDermott is kind of now back involved in play calling. And all of a sudden, you saw a very different Bills defense. You saw the linebackers playing at the appropriate depth, which allowed them to get sideline to sideline fast enough. Also, you watched the linebackers did something crazy that I'm not used to seeing. You usually have one middle linebacker. Instead, they swapped mic roles depending on who was on the field. Turf to tape. Sal Capaccio and Eric Turner were talking about it today. And Sal Capaccio asked Joe Andreessen after the game, hey, where were you playing? He goes, well, some plays I was the mic. And then sometimes they would put me down as a weak side linebacker because I'm better getting out in space than I am coming down on the run. And that would let Dorian Williams play the same position. And then on those plays, that's when what's-his-face from the Panthers, Shaq Thompson would slot in as the mic. And it's like, you guys are literally rotating linebackers the way the Bills rotate tight ends or wide receivers. And look at the effect it had on the defense. Situational awareness and proper usage of your personnel out of nowhere. Meanwhile, there's Sean McDermott just holding a play sheet. I made the analogy and I'll tell the story. My kids got lost at Home Depot this weekend. My children got lost inside Home Depot this weekend. And I allowed it. Because sometimes daddy has to let the kids make mistakes. You got to let them fuck up and get in the woods and realize how in over their skis they are before you swoop in and go, hey guys, let me help you here. So we're in Home Depot. My kids are fighting inside the cart. And I go, guys, we're not doing this anymore. Get out of the cart. We're walking. You're 5, you're 3. We can all do this together. And they go, yay, we don't have to be in a cart. So we walk through Home Depot. And as we're walking and we're kind of cruising through the store, I end up, I realize as we've done some of the minor shopping, light bulbs and some other things I needed, I was like, oh, wait, I need totes. And they're at the back of the store. Guys, follow me. We're going to follow the main aisle and go directly to the back of the store. In which my 5 and 3-year-old decide it's a funny idea to cut off into the kitchen section where all the appliances and the desks where you can sit down and reimagine your kitchen and kind of oh man, we'll help you revisualize what your future could be if you just buy all of our cheap shit. So I'm walking and I know my kids aren't with me and I hear them running through the store and I go, you know what? It's time. I get to the back wall. I stop. I'm looking at the different bins and I'm waiting and I'm kind of looking over my shoulder. And sure enough, they run to the back of the kitchen section. And they don't know that the pallet rack with all the stuff on it in between me and them, they think that's the back of the store. And I hear my oldest look at my youngest and go, oh, great, Tommy. Now we're lost. Within 40 seconds, hysterics ensue. They're crying. They're upset. They're scared that they're lost inside of a giant warehouse with the shelves that are so tall that when you're 5 and 3, there's no way you can see over the top of them. I'm 10 feet away. They don't know it. But I let them feel that for a minute. And there's a guy in the aisle, him and his wife goes, oh my God, those kids. What is something wrong? And I go, no, they're mine. They're fine. And the father bursts out laughing and the husband gives me a fist bump and we laugh. He goes, I remember those days. I go, yeah, I'm out here teaching lessons. And so eventually I gave him 45 seconds and I walked around the corner and I go, hey guys, here we go. I'm here for you now. But now don't you want to listen to me just a little bit more than you did 10 minutes ago? Don't you maybe think that dad has your best interest in mind and maybe you should just follow what I think we should be doing? And maybe I can help you, I can at least help lead you to not a bad time. Of course, the lady from Home Depot who came running over thought I was the devil for doing that to my children. And maybe I am. But at the end of the day, they will remember the lesson of that more so than me chiding them every 10 minutes. Hey guys, follow me and listen. A part of me wonders if this game wasn't one of those experiences for this coaching staff, Chris. Was this game one of those moments where Bobby Babich had to sit back and go, oh shit, maybe I should be listening more to Sean McDermott? Because when Sean McDermott gets involved in the play calling, all of a sudden our cornerbacks look more physical. They're pressing closer at the line of scrimmage and then dropping off in zone. It's zone, but it's more physical. Hey, what he's doing with our linebacker depth seems to make more sense, and our linebackers can execute it. And all of a sudden, this goes right back to looking like prime Buffalo Bills, 2020, 2025 defense. During this era of Bills' success we've seen, it's been keyed by the defense. And as soon as Sean McDermott sticks his beak back in there, it just gets better. Well, I'm sorry, then what that does is that tells me that you're weak coordinators and coaches behind him, and he's trying to bring you along like children. In this way, God bless Sean McDermott. You know who this week's zero of the week is, Chris? Bobby Babich. Give it to me. Hit me with it.
Folks fell on your face. You get an F- in my book.
Daddy had to step in and help them find themselves. I think that's embarrassing. I think he and Ryan Nielsen and whatever his face is they brought in as a DB coach from New England, they should all be embarrassed that Sean McDermott had to be like, let me take the play sheet for let me just step in here for a hot second. Let me just put my thumb on the scale. Oh, look at that. Our defense gets better when I get involved. It's probably because I'm so good at my job, I made head coach because of it. If any of you ever want to be here, if any of you ever want to sniff this air, then you better shut up and do what I tell you to do. Chris, as much as I don't like the involvement, because I'd like to think that Sean McDermott could find coordinators, right?
Yeah.
Like, this team is so good, you should be able to find good coordinators.
But he does. I will say he does get coordinators. When he hires coordinators, he no longer hires a coordinator that could challenge him for his job. Because I think Leslie Frazier got to a point with that, and then Frazier gone. It's almost like Kenny Powers when he was on the Mermen with Ivan Dichenko.
Yeah.
That's like, no, still team leader.
No, well,
No,
what I love is
still
that
team leader.
all I go back to, I'm not going to lie to you, I watched that last night. That sequence when Kenny Powers shows up and he's talking to the coach and he goes, listen, he goes, all this hatred, all this outside noise, I can harness it. I can use it. You need to put me in the game. And it was one of those moments where I'm like, oh, that's Sean McDermott. Sean McDermott's like, listen, guys, you put me in the game. You let me do this job. I'll get out there and do it. He's waiting for somebody else to rise to the occasion, and nobody has. Nobody has. Sean McDermott remains the best defensive coordinator on this staff. That's a problem. That's highly problematic. Just looking at some of the comments. Does that mean Babbage needs to take the chains off for the week? He not only needs to take the chains off, he's no longer allowed at Caputis for ladies' night. He's banned. Until this defense goes out there and puts out a stellar performance against the Kansas City Chiefs, Bobby Babbage is not allowed back in Caputis for ladies' night. Tonawanda should just throw him out. Just let McD call the defense. It's not like his head is ever in the situational game anyway. I don't disagree. I think Sean McDermott's best value to this team. Yeah, and there's something to be said for that. Some of my final thoughts as I walk away from this. We obviously celebrate Jim Cook. We obviously celebrate the rookie class who got to show off. And I question if Trey White won't be Chris. If Dorian Strong was healthy, with Max Hairston being healthy, if Trey White wouldn't have been relegated to dime back duty and Jamarcus Ingram wouldn't even be on the roster. I feel like these are all things that we have to ask. If injuries hadn't solved these things for us, if this isn't where we would have ended up. So now we're in this place. Not a Caputis. Caputis is still a thing. Yes, guys. Unfortunately, in the Villa of Tonawanda, Caputis is still a thriving thing. And there are a lot of guys with heavy chains and flat brim caps who are still in there trying to hit on women who want nothing to do with them. I've seen this firsthand. It's awful. I think the Buffalo Bills have reached a crossroads. Sean McDermott's clearly thrown down the gauntlet for his coaching staff, and I think that sounds more hyperbolic than it should be, but maybe that's right. He's basically challenged his coaching staff saying, look, if you let me get involved, here we are. When I get involved, we perform. Things are aligned. Things go the way they're supposed to go. Things flow from the offensive line to the linebacker, from the defensive line to the linebacker core to the secondary. Everything seems to fall into place when I'm calling the plays or when I have some involvement here. I'm trying to groom you to be the next generation of play callers, and yet you're not taking this. You're not taking it and running with it. You're failing. You're dying on this hill. That's a problem. And at the same time, we might have just found, Chris, what the strength of this team might be down the stretch, and what actually turns this thing around is just, we talked about how having so many cooks in the kitchen on defense between Ryan Nielsen at the defensive line level, a new linebacker coach, a new nickelbacks coach, a new cornerback coach, dealing with a sophomore defensive coordinator. How all of those things probably play a role in the chaos that we've watched for the last 7 weeks. And here comes Sean McDermott going, hey guys, we're going to do it my way for a week. Let's just take it for a spin and see what happens. Turns out it's sexy. And now he goes, hey man, look, if you don't want me to come in and take all your jobs, like I'm giving you avenues to grow as professionals. But don't make me regret it, because I'll step back in here and just take it over. And when I do, it's damn good. Chris, maybe that is the upshot for the Bills defense this year is that when Sean McDermott finally gets sick and tired of everyone's bullshit and calls it himself, it works. I guess on the offensive side of the ball, you look at the fact that we've run the hell out of it. We've got good run blockers, mauling run blockers, and that you hope something happens in the trade market this week that changes the makeup of our wide receiver core. Because right now with Keon Coleman, who was supposed to be the guy who took a step forward, taking such a precipitous step back that he's now a punt returner, you have to make a move. I wouldn't even mind if Keon Coleman's part of the trade package.
Sign me up.
If you can go elevate that room and get me a separation artist, this whole thing changes. This whole conversation becomes different. Bring in someone who changes the gravity that defensive backs have to play our offense with. I think that this game was the litmus test for that, and they failed miserably. Every single pass catcher not named Khalil Shakir failed miserably at proving that this team does not need a wide receiver trade. And so in that way, I don't know. This week hopefully is wild. Hopefully we have something crazy to talk about next week. But for tonight, it's 9:30, and I've done an hour and a half, and we got to get the hell out of here. I'm Drew Gear. That's Chris Krueger. And we are your Rockpile Report. Thanks for showing up, guys.